To find the total surface area of a prism or a cylinder, we're going to use the formula pH plus 2b. P represents the perimeter of the base, H represents the height of the prism or cylinder, and V represents the area of the base. So my 3 steps for finding this answer is to first figure out where your bases are. If you don't know what your base is, you're not going to be able to do any part of this problem. So recall in a prism that the bases are the sides that are parallel and congruent to each other. Not necessarily top and bottom, but parallel and congruent. So in this case, it's the 2 triangles. The triangle on the top and the triangle on the bottom are my 2 bases. So, and I can see that they're in the shape of a triangle. So I found the bases. You may also want to note what shape that base is, because depending on what it is, you'll need to use a different formula. So I'm noticing that these bases are triangles. I'm actually going to do my steps a little out of order. I'm going to find the height next. Now, one way these problems start to get confusing is we talk about height to mean a few different things. We can talk about the height of the prism. I can also talk about the height of the triangle. So in this case, I want to know the actual height of the prism. How far is it from one base to the other base? So looking at my diagram, I can see that to travel from one triangle to the next, I move a total of 7 inches. So my height of the actual prism is 7. The reason I like to find that first is because I can typically cross that number out. I don't need to use that number again. For the most part, I don't think I'll need that. So I'm going to cross it out. It's one less number I'm looking at in the diagram. Because another reason people struggle with these is there's so many numbers to look at. So let's get rid of that 7. We're not going to need it again. Okay, last up, let's go ahead and find the area of the base and the perimeter of the base. You've probably noticed I've started this problem by listing out B, P, and H. Begin every problem that way. Start before you try to jump in and find your final answer. Start with BPH. In fact, on your homework right now, you probably want to write down BPH next to each problem. Area of the base, perimeter of the base, and height of the prism. So let's go ahead and find the area of the base. Now we noted that the area, the base itself was a triangle. So going from memory or looking at your formula cards or your little books, recall that to find the area of a triangle, it's 1/2 times the base times the height. Now here's where I said it's getting confusing because base and height now have a different meaning. In this case, we're only talking about the base and height of the triangle. So I'm only looking at this triangle down here. I remember that base and height have to be perpendicular, so I can see that the 2 sides I need are those 2 sides right there. Well, one of them's labeled 8, the other doesn't have a label, but since that side up there is 6, I know that side right there is going to be 6. I can slide these sides around to get different measurements. So looking at just the base then, I can see that to find the area of it, I have to do 1/2 times 6 times 8. Now 7 is not the height of the triangle, 7 is the height of the prism. So be careful that you're not mixing those 2 things up. So multiplying 1/2 times 6 times 8, I get a base area of 24 square inches. Okay, last up is to find the perimeter of the base. Perimeter means add up the 3 sides because we have a triangle this time. So adding up the 3 sides are 6, 8, and 10. Again, notice that 7's not being used. 7's not part of the base. The triangle is just made up of those 3 sides. Coincidentally enough, it comes out to equal the same thing, 24 inches. Total coincidence though, okay? Once you have those 3 values found, you actually are now able to find the total surface area using the formula we came up with in class, pH plus 2b. So let's plug the values into that formula and find our total surface area. So TSA for total surface area is equal to the perimeter times the height of the prism, so 24 times 7, and then plus 2 times the area of the base. The reason we're doing 2 is because we have 2 bases. There's 2 triangles in this problem. So getting a calculator to perform that computation for us, I come up with a total surface area of 216. And because we're still working with area, this is still going to be an area label, so inches squared in this case. So if this were some kind of box that I was wrapping in paper or painting, minimum I would need 216 square inches to completely cover all the surfaces. To find the total surface area of a cylinder, we can use the same exact formula we use for prisms, pH plus 2b. So I'm actually going to follow the exact same steps this time, just using different area and perimeter formulas. So let's start by figuring out what the bases are. In a cylinder, that's pretty easy to do. The bases are going to be your circles, but just be in the habit of finding them. I like to trace them or shade them so I can take a look at the base and make sure I know what shape they are. So in cylinders, it's pretty easy. The bases are just going to be circles. I like to make a note of that because I'm going to need to be using circle formulas. Doing my steps out of order, I like to find the height next. So the height is not necessarily vertical, in this case it is, but it's not necessarily vertical. The height is the distance between the two bases. So to travel from one base to the next, I can see that's a total of 3 centimeters. So I'm going to find that number and record it, and I'm going to cross it out because I'm not going to need that number again. So I found the height. Last up, let's find the area of the base and the perimeter of the base. So big B stands for the area of the base. Since it's a circle this time, now I'm going to use the formula pi r squared. So you've got to make sure you have all your area formulas either memorized or have them written down on your in your little books or on your formula sheet, so you can check these, because that's going to change depending on what shape your base is. So let's go ahead and just get an approximate answer this time. So I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. Notice your radius this time. It's not 4. 4 is the entire diameter, so my radius must just be 2. 4 was the distance all the way across the figure. They tried to get you. So the center would be right there. The radius would just be half of that. So the radius is just 2 in this case. So 3.4 times 2 squared gets me a base area of about 12.56. And then finally, P stands for perimeter of the base. Now, we never called it perimeter of a circle, we called it circumference, but it meant the same thing. It meant the distance around. So checking my formula card, or memorizing my formula, I know that the circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. So once again, getting an approximate answer is going to be 2 times 3.14 times a radius of 2. And once again, just a huge coincidence, we end up with the same number for our perimeter, so 12.56. Once I have those 3 values figured out, I can go ahead and find my total surface area using this formula, perimeter times height plus 2 times the base. So let's take 12.56, the perimeter, times the height of the cylinder, which is 3, add on 2 bases because there's a top and a bottom in this case. So 2 times 12.56, reaching for a calculator to do the actual math on this part. The total surface area comes up to be, I guess I'll use approximately, comes out to be approximately 62.8. And once again, we're still working with area, so square centimeters.